Hello guys and welcome back to Planet 40k Necrons. We've got a full review for you today and it's going to be one of our Titanic units. It's going to be the Tesseract Vault. So we're going to get into that data sheet and talk about all the good stuff, the bad stuff, and give a Planet 40k rating at the end of the video. So let's kick into this and look at the reverse side of the data card. And well, this is 425 points, so quite an expensive thing. And yeah, a bit of an investment for your army list. So one Tesseract Vault is equipped with 4 Tesla spheres and the armoured bulk. In fact, going back to that points cost, 425 points, it used to only be 360 at the end of 9th edition, so that is a whopping amount of 65 points of an increase from edition to edition there. But yeah, 4 Tesla spheres and the armoured bulk. Now we need to also look at some of these keywords because they are quite important. It's a vehicle, yep, that's cool. It's Titanic, it's got the fly keyword, which has obviously been nerfed in 10th edition. And probably most importantly at this current time is it's got the towering keyword. So how it interacts with terrain features is slightly different to other units. And that kind of works for the unit as well as against the unit, because as long as we got line of sight, we can literally just fire and target enemy units. Even if they're behind terrain features, they're not going to get the benefits of cover. But also the same applies to our unit. Our Tesseract Bolt will also be able to be targeted, and the Tesseract Bolt is quite a large model, so it does work both ways there. So we're going to flip this card over and we're going to check out the statistics and compare the edition from last edition as well, because we're only in the index launch of the Necrons. So the movement is 7. I think most things have lost an inch now, so this is kind of an ongoing thing. It used to be 8 inches, now 7 inches, and also when you've got that along with the nerf to fly, that makes it very difficult in general, because you don't have unlimited vertical distance anymore. You've got to do the diagonal distance in terms of the measurement. And also, like I said, this thing is a large model. It's going to be very difficult to maneuver around the battlefield when you've got terrain in the way. It's quite a big junky model. Now the toughness has thankfully gone up to toughness 12. It was toughness 7. That's kind of standard for monsters and vehicles in 10th edition, but toughness 12 is quite hefty. It's not exactly a monolith. It's not toughness 14. But toughness 12 is still very strong. 2+ armor save to help with that resiliency. And in fact, going to the bottom right of the screen before we move on, it's got an invulnerable save of a 4+. So a 2+ armor, a 4+ invulnerable save. Nice. The wounds, however, has gone down. It used to be 30 wounds, it's now only 24. So we've lost 6 wounds with this thing, which is quite a lot, especially when the points cost has gone up. Leadership is 7+, and object control is 8. So a fair amount of object control with this thing. And this thing can now, in fact, sit on objectives, which they FAQ'd that about a month ago now, I think it was. So this thing can sit on it, and because it's, again, it's a large model, so therefore you can literally screen off the entire objective if you pleased. Now, there is a damage table at the bottom right, which I normally forget to do at this point, but I've remembered in this video, so we're going to do that now. When you're 8 wounds or less, your objective control goes from 8 to 4, so it halves. And also you're subtracting 1 from the hit roll, which we haven't really talked about the weapons yet, but it's a -1 to the hit for both the blitz skill and the weapon skill. Now you used to degrade when it was down to 15 wounds or less. It is now when it's down to 8 wounds or less. So it's much better in terms of the degrading system. But that's of course across the entire game and not just the Tesseract Bolt. Let's move into the weapons. We're going to start with the ranged weapon of the Tesla spheres. Now remember, you get 4 of these, so this is just showing 1, but you get 4 times this figure. So it's got sustain hits 2, it's Tesla, so every unmodified hit roll of a 6 will score you 2 additional hits on top, so virtually 3 hits for 1. 24-inch range, 6 attacks. You used to have only 4 attacks, now it is 6, so therefore we're getting 24 shots and not 16. Nice. Ballista skill 3+, strength 7, no AP, 1 damage, so the rest of the stats are unchanged. I'm not sure how I feel about the Tesla weapons really. I mean, strength 7 now isn't really that high, so you're not really going to be targeting vehicles and monsters, but you weren't anyway because the AP was low and it was only 1 damage. So really it's just going to be wounded infantry on a 3+, toughness 4, toughness 5, toughness 6 on a 3+. If you're going up against toughness 3, then it will be on a 2+, and yeah, you've got the option of doing that, I suppose. But yeah, if you're going up against toughness 7, it's probably not worth it. They're going to have quite a few wounds, and they're going to be quite resilient. Now we're going to skip over the Catan powers for just a moment, because that's part of the abilities. We'll come back to it. Let's just go over to the melee weapon at the bottom, which is Armoured Bulk. It's our melee weapon with 6 attacks, weapon skill 4+, strength 8, no AP and 1 damage. So yeah, not really doing much in melee, only hitting on a 4+. It is strength 8, which is nice, but really, you shouldn't really be in melee. Now let's move over to the abilities before coming back to the Catan powers. We've got Deadly Demise D6 plus 3, which is an average of what, 6 or 7 mortal wounds. That's quite a lot. Minimum of 4, maximum of 9. Yeah, that's quite a hefty explosion. You don't want to be near that with your other units. Reanimation protocols, nice, it's got that. And then it's got the unique ability of Powers of the Catan. So what is Powers of the Catan? In your shooting phase, when this model is selected to shoot, first select one of the Catan powers on the left. Until the end of the phase, and very important there, end of the phase, this model is equipped with that weapon in addition to the other weapons. This model cannot make attacks with any of the Catan powers that you did not select in any way this phase. So there's 3 on the left hand side and you select one of them in your shooting phase and it only lasts till the end of the phase. So I want to make that very clear because I actually got this wrong when I was first preparing this video. And thankfully one of the guys in the Discord actually mentioned this. And basically you cannot use any of the Catan powers for Overwatch, because Overwatch is either in the movement phase or it's going to be in the charge phase, not in the shoot phase. So therefore, none of those Catan powers can be used in Overwatch, and one of them in particular is an automatically hitting weapon, which would be really nice. So just want to make that very clear, don't do what I did and forget that. Right, so the Catan powers, let's go through all 3 of them. The first one is Antimatter Meteor. You've got the blast ability, you've got devastating wounds and indirect fire. So it's got only a range of 24 inch. I don't think that's a large range. We're going to have to get a bit closer, and moving this thing around is, as we already mentioned, quite a janky, hefty model. D6 plus 3 attacks, so it's between 4 and 9 shots. Political 3 plus, strength 10, minus 3 AP and 3 damage. Effectively, this thing is very good at removing Terminators because you're wounding Terminators on the 2 plus, because strength 10 versus toughness 5. AP is minus 3, you're probably putting them on the in-1 save, which will be a 4 up in-1. And the damage is 3, so each one that goes through will remove a Terminator. Bear in mind this also has the blast keyword, so therefore, even though we've said between 4 and 9 shots, you've got to add blast as well. So for every 5, that's going to be an additional attack. So likelihood, if you're going up against 5 Terminators, you're going to get an additional attack, just 1. Going up against 20 Necron Warriors, you're going to get an extra 4. Devastate wounds, if you wound on a 6+, unmodified, there's no in-1 save. So that will go straight through that Terminator in-1, and you're just going to throw 3 mortal wounds straight onto the unit. It's decent. I actually quite like that weapon. Out of all 3 of them, I think that one is probably the better one. The second one is Cosmic Fire. So this ignores cover. It's got devastating wounds again, and it's a torrent. So it's got only 18-inch range, so even shorter this time, but it's 3d6 shots. In fact, it's 3d6 hits because they're automatically hitting. So between 3 and 18 automatically hits, which hurts light and even medium infantry, and this is why. So it's strength 6, minus 2 AP, 1 damage. So strength 6 means you're wounding toughness 3 on a 2+, and even standard Space Marines that are toughness 4, you wound them on a 3+. Minus 2 AP will either put those Gaunts and Guardsmen onto no save, and those Space Marines will be on a 5+ save. Now they're only 1 damage, but you're going to get quite a lot of shots with these. 3d6, potentially quite a lot of shots. I say you will, but you might roll 3 ones and just get 3 shots with it. So you're not going to remove anything really. But you could get 18, so you don't know. But yeah, this one would have been the nice one to use for Overwatch, but unfortunately we don't have Overwatch with this weapon because it's not in the right phase. The last one is Time's Arrow. It's anti-character 4+, so any character that is targeted with this, you just need a 4+ to wound. Devastating wounds again, nice precision. So that means you can fire straight at the character even if it's hiding within a unit. Also, I just want to point out here that because it's got anti-character 4+, if you do score a 4 or more, so let's say you roll a 4, that will become a critical wound. And if you've seen from the next part here, the Devastating Wounds ability, that will be scored on a critical wound. So therefore, any 4+s literally will go through invulnerable saves. Now, it's a 24-inch range. It's only got 1 shot. That's a little bit unfortunate. Give it 2 at least, but yeah, only 1 shot. So it's quite a risky one. You're hitting on the 2+ this time at least. Strength is 3, but as we mentioned, you're only using this against characters, so it's a 4+ really. Minus 2 AP, and the damage is a flat 6. So if you do manage to get the hit, which you should, it's a 2+, and you do manage to score the wound on a 4+, that's a 50-50, you slap in 6 damage. You're literally taking away a smaller character. If it was one of our characters, the Technomancers, the Locust Lords, they'll be gone. Unless they've got Feel No Pain, of course, but they'll be gone. So the equivalent characters and other factions, they'll likely be gone, or they'll be really reduced to not much left. So yeah, it's a good backup plan if you like. And I feel like having all of these, you know, get to select one of these in every single shooting phase, it feels like a Swiss Army knife. It feels like it's, you know, the jack of all trades, however, it's probably the master of none. I mean, going back through all of them, is there a better anti-Terminator weapon? I mean, to be fair, there might not be that. It's actually a really good weapon. I do like Antimatter Meteor. Cosmic Fire, there's probably better options for anti-infantry. Again, the Locust Heavy Destroyers, perhaps with the Exterminator weapons, they're probably much better than that. And Times Arrow, you've probably got Death Marks, or you could probably use an Epic Challenge Stratagem. There's lots of different ways of doing that. But it's got all three, so it gives you a bit of flexibility in game. Unfortunately, all three of them have got the poor ranges. 24-inch range is the best range. And again, moving around isn't going to be easy. So let's get on with some synergy for the Tesseract Bolt. Start with one of the protocols, which is the Protocol of Conquering Tyrant. Done in your shooting phase, you select your Bolt. And until the end of the phase, each time a model in the unit makes an attack, that's within half the firing range of the weapons, which isn't a lot to be fair, then you're going to get to re-roll your wound roll. And if you've got a character leading the unit, and the only way to do that of course will be with the enhancement, the Sovereign Coronal, then you could do it with the full range rather than half range. So getting to re-roll all the wound rolls could be good, it could be good. Depends on how many shots you've got, but unfortunately you've got to kind of select this before you've actually started rolling for how many attacks you've got. For example, with the Antimatter Meteor, D6 plus 3, you don't know how many shots you've got. With the Cosmic Fire, 3d6, you don't know how many shots you've got until you've shot, if you know what I mean. So it's a little bit risky. You're not really going to use it for the Times Arrow because you've only got one shot. But I mean, it's there. It's there as an option, and it's one command point. One of the synergies from one of the characters is, in fact, with the Sovereign Coronal, and it's the Technomancer. Taking that aura, Sovereign Coronal, so that it gets the benefits of being led, so it's a +1 to the hit rolls. And also that Technomancer is going to be healing D3 lost wounds to your Vault. So that'll be D3 for reanimation protocols in your command phase, and then in the movement phase you get D3 lost wounds because of the Technomancer's ability. And the Canoptic Cloak, of course, will allow the Technomancer to have the lone operative ability so that it won't be targeted. If you want to further boost the resiliency of the Vault, you've got the Canoptic Spider with the Fabric Laser Claw Array for 6+ Funo pain saves for vehicles within 6, as well as the Gloom Prism for a 4+ Funo pain save against psychic attacks. Not always the case, don't always come up against psychic factions, and not always against psychic attacks either, but you've got the option there. And the Reanimator, of course, it virtually relates to everything there. Reanimation protocols will get you an extra D3 with the Nanoscale Reanimation Beam, which I quite like because it helps everything within 12 inches, which is really good. So what are you doing with your Tesseract Bolt in game? Now, I don't think it's scoring much apart from the killy secondaries, no prisoners, bring it down. Maybe the objectives that require you to remove enemy units from an objective. They're the only ones that I can really see that will fit for the Tesseract Bolt. It's not going to be getting behind enemy lines, and it's not going to be getting, you know, maybe engaging on fronts. In fact, it could help with that. But really, it's not there for secondaries, it's there to remove models. But yeah, you kind of need to look at your targets as if you're going up against Terminates, for example, that's when you select Antimatter Meteor. If you've got a load of gaunts on the table, that's when you select Cosmic Fire, and so on. So you kind of need to look at the weapon as you go and change it up on the fly, basically, so that you can constantly be making the absolute maximum use of your bolts. Now, moving into the pros and cons for the Tesseract Bolt, I'm going to start with the pros. It's durable, toughness 12, 24 wounds, and then it's got the 2+4+ save, or 2+ armor save, 4+ invulnerable save, which is nice. The Catan powers like a Swiss Army knife. You're on the fly. You can literally be flexible. One shooting phase you're doing this against Terminators, the next shooting phase you're doing that against characters. So it is flexible. Swiss Army knife. It's a Terminator killer with the Antimatter Meteor, and it's got the precision option with the Times Arrow, and of course the gaunt killing one with the Cosmic Fire, which for some reason I forgot to put on screen. They're the only pros that I can see really for this kind of model. As for the cons, it's an expensive purchase just in terms of your money. You've got to, the last time I bought the Bolt, it was about 100 quid. It might have gone up. In fact, it will have gone up because of inflation, because I got mine before April. You've got it's expensive in terms of points, 425. For what it can do, that's expensive. It is very expensive. You can do a lot more with other units. So for me, yeah, too much points there. The Tesla Spheres, we didn't really talk about them much in the video. They're not that great. Yes, you're getting more attacks with them this time around, but they're not really doing much. Strength 7, no AP, 1 damage. Not really a thing to talk about, unless you're going up against little hordes. Again, guardsmen, gaunts, those kind of things. They're the only real decent target, but other than that, nah. Awful in melee. Yeah, okay, it's strength 8, but other than that, that's not really what it's about. The maneuverability I put next, which took me a while to spell because I kept spelling it wrong. Have I even spelled it right? I hope so, I hope so. I hope the spell checker's given me a chance there because I think I've spelled it right. Anyway, I'm waffling on. Because this thing is so large, it's got, it's got the base and it's got the massive, hull of the actual model. Moving around ruins, moving around everything, really. It's just an absolute pain. It's just not that easy to move around. In fact, speaking of just maneuverability in general, if you're going to a game that isn't where you live, just getting your Tesseract Bolt from A to B, to your friend's house, to your gaming club, even that's a mission in itself. So yeah, maneuverability is a con. You can't fight Overwatch with the Catan powers, because they only last for the shooting phase, and the monolith is obviously cheaper, and I think it probably does a lot more for you, to be honest. It does a lot more. Okay, it doesn't have the Catan powers, but you've got the 4 death rays, you've got the Eternity Gate ability, Deep Strike. I think you're getting more for your money with the monolith, even though I don't even value the monolith that highly, but I would definitely take a monolith over the Bolt. So it's time to give our Planet 40k rating today for the Tesseract Bolt. And yeah, for this one, it's not going to be high, and I don't even think it's average, so I'm going to go with a 2-star rating. So guys, that is it from me today. You'll have to let me know your rating down in the comments below. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel for more of this kind of content. Thank you all for watching. See you in the next one.